So this means we're friends, right? By PaisleyWraith. He was bleeding. Bad enough it was seeping into Kyle's clothes. I wish you would let me take you to a hospital, Kyle fretted. He looked over his shoulder again, making sure they weren't being followed. The men who'd thrown him into the street had just disappeared, for the time being. That was fucking scary. I told you to leave me, the man said, leaning so heavily against Kyle he was practically carrying him. You'll just be in trouble. I live around the corner, Kyle replied, bracing him as he stumbled. I'm not leaving you on the street. The vigilante groaned in pain, clutching his blood-soaked uniform. He was slowing down, and that frightened him. Lean on me all you need to, Kyle told him, fumbling with his keys in the dark, just in case they needed to get in quickly. We're almost there. Hold on a little longer. He slumped, and Kyle caught him. For someone he'd personally seen take down men twice his size, he was light. Mysterion? Kyle asked, alarmed, and the vigilante stirred. It's a waste of time, Kyle, the cloaked man mumbled. I don't know who's following me. You're bleeding out in practically my front yard. I'm not abandoning you, Kyle snapped. The man smiled, twisted, and Kyle continued. So shut the fuck up already. My apartment is here. First floor, no stairs. It's okay. You'll be okay. The vigilante laughed in his ear, mocking and dark. You aren't scared of me at all, are you? You've only been coming to me for help for almost a year now, Kyle said firmly as he unlocked the door. I only write about you in the paper all the time. I've seen what you can do, so no, you don't scare me. I should, Mysterion murmured. You make me sound nicer than what I am. Yeah, you broke up a kidnapping ring last week. Not nice at all. Kyle tried to ease the bloody man into his couch, and Mysterion flopped limply onto his back with a grunt. Kyle moved to shut and lock all the doors first of all, then moved to his side immediately, green eyes snapping. Take off your shirt, he said, not leaving room for argument. I know you probably have a concussion, and I want to make sure you're not bleeding out first. It's a one piece, Mysterion mumbled, leaning back against the pillows. Just leave me alone. It'll end up okay. Not a chance, Kyle retorted. I need to check the cut. How'd you let that guy actually pick you up off your feet? Lucky. Mysterion sounded like he was slurring. Fucker. This wasn't getting anywhere. Mysterion's eyes were drooping, and Kyle gritted his teeth. How do I get this off? He asked, stooping down beside the couch. Mysterion. Guy. The vigilante breathed, his eyes closing. Kyle's heart was racing. He grabbed the man's chin, getting in his face. Open your eyes, he demanded, and the vigilante obliged with a wince. You're letting me help you, or I'm calling an ambulance. Your fucking choice. I'm tired, not dying, Mysterion grumbled as he reached up under the top of his cloak, trying to pull. Kyle found a snap and detached the cloak, watching the superhero grit his teeth as the redhead pulled the cloak off his shoulders entirely. A zipper? Kyle couldn't help but point out. The most feared man in the whole fucking city is running around in a onesie? Fuck off. Mysterion looked exhausted, but still pissed. He moved to help Kyle unzip the costume, which made Kyle even more distressed. No bulletproof armor? Nothing? Mysterion was pale, too. Pale and thin. He was lean, but he didn't look like someone who could pick up the front end of a car. Dude, how have you not died already? Mysterion cracked a smile, something bitter and ugly, and it made him shiver. Kyle peeled his costume where it was sticking to his wound. He breathed in relief. Fuck, it's just bad road rash. He laughed, feeling flooding back into his fingers. Shit, you had me scared to death. I thought you severed an artery. Mysterion closed his eyes again, settling back. In truth, there was one puncture wound. Kyle wondered how it had happened. He'd seen the guy pretty much lift the vigilante up and throw him into the fucking street. Into a car. His body had bounced off the car and skidded across the street and remained still. He'd just been watching. Mysterion had been in his neighborhood for some reason, and he watched him get hurt. And once the man had fled, Kyle stepped in before they could come back. You should have broke something, Kyle mentioned as he stood to get his first aid kit from under the sink. I can't believe you got off this easy. Mysterion smirked tiredly as he approached. He lowered his head again, letting Kyle work. There was a cut and the scraped-up skin, he noticed. As he started to clean up the area, the vigilante never flinched. Kyle glanced up. "Can you feel this at all?" he asked. If he couldn't, that was a whole nother issue. "Yes." Mysterion sounded uninterested. "It's fine." It was eerie. He never moved, never reacted. He was disinfecting the area, and it had to hurt like hell. Kyle watched his chest rise and fall as he worked on the skin. He had a thought, and it wasn't pleasant. "You aren't going to the hospital at all, are you?" Kyle asked irritably. "No." "Great. I guess I'll do what I can then." Kyle cringed. "I can use surgical glue, but your skin is fucked up, dude. You look like you fell into a meat grinder." "Whatever makes you happy, Kyle," Mysterion replied. He sounded tired. "I'll be fine. I've had worse than this." "I heard you got shot downtown last week," Kyle said coolly, looking up at him again. "I don't see any marks, though." Mysterion opened his eyes again, watching, smiling. "I told you, I always end up fine." Kyle met his gaze. He tilted his head, having a slow realization. "Can you regenerate?" Mysterion's answer wasn't a yes or a no. "I know you talk more than this," Kyle said, leaning back from taping gauze over his worst scrapes. "I interview regularly. If your concussion was messing with you that badly..." "I don't have any useful abilities." Mysterion sounded more irritated than anything. "I can fight. I bounce back quickly. That's it." Kyle decided there wasn't much he could do for the massive bruising, other than give him a few ice packs. He pulled the blanket on the back of the couch over his chest, standing up. Mysterion was sleeping by the time he got back from the fridge. Kyle stared down at him. He could snicker over Kyle not being afraid all he wanted. This was bizarre. The most wanted hero in the state was willing to strip and sleep around Kyle as if he wasn't in any danger. He regularly showed up when Kyle asked him to, willing to share information, even asking for help sometimes. He trusted him. Kyle crouched down next to him. He washed his face, the twitch of his eyelids, and his lips parted as he breathed. The mask covered half his face, dark paint over his eyes to disguise him, somehow. It was smeared, revealing pale eyelashes. Kyle reached without thinking, intending to cup his face. Mysterion jerked awake. Reaching out to stop Kyle's hand, ended up smacking him in the face instead. "Fucking ouch!" Kyle wasn't as hurt as much as he was pissed. "Bite the hand that heals you, I guess." "Sorry," Mysterion mumbled, in such a different voice that it took Kyle by surprise. He almost commented on it, but he realized what it must be. "You can't sleep," Kyle said in concern. "Don't fall asleep yet. I need to make sure you're all right." Mysterion seemed to shake himself. "Right." His voice corrected. Yes." He looked exhausted, snuggling into the blankets like a child. Kyle smiled, confused. He turned this terrifying, dark beast into something nearly cute. Mysterion was feared. He was vicious and unrelenting and remorseless. And he was curled, half naked on Kyle's couch, all bandaged up and under a fleece blanket. Kyle moved to sit down fully beside him, not quite sure what to do about the situation. He really wasn't equipped to treat medical problems. The gash on his chest worried him greatly. He did the best he could, but it was still worrying. "Do you..." Mysterion looked at him, and Kyle proceeded carefully. "Have an identity. Someone you are when you aren't Mysterion." The quiet look turned electric. His eyes seemed to spark. "Why?" His growl was back, and he lifted himself up on one elbow. "Lay the fuck down, you idiot!" Kyle touched his shoulder, gently trying to coax him down. "I just want to know if that persona could visit a hospital. I really think you should get someone professional to look at you." Mysterion eased back down, the fire leaving him, replaced by something just as warm, but not as intense. "I do," he revealed. "And if I say I'll think about it, will you drop it?" That sounded nearly playful. Kyle's hand was still on his shoulder, and he slowly, curiously dragged his fingertips across the bruises there. "For now," Kyle finally said, finding it surreal to be touching Mysterion so gently. He was allowing Kyle to run his fingers over his bare skin. It shook him a little, that in the tired way he was watching Kyle, he had snapped bones in half, sent the worst people running in terror, and there he lay, in his house, letting him fuss. The man smiled, tracing his fingers over his collarbone. "Does anyone ever look after you?" "You're getting too personable," Mysterion warned quietly. "We're not friends, Kyle." Kyle looked him over, looked around his living room, looked back at him. "I'm not going to comment," he said finally. "I'm getting something to drink. Is water fine for you?" "I should go," Mysterion said, hoisting himself up. Kyle's hand immediately settled on his chest. "Don't," Kyle said seriously. He met Mysterion's gaze, unafraid. "If you're not going to a doctor, you're staying here until at least I know you don't have brain damage." Mysterion paused, seeming to think. "You can't keep me here," he said, narrowing his eyes. "I can't," Kyle agreed. "But I can ask that you don't leave yet." There, he paused. Kyle moved forward. "I'll worry about you." Something softened in the vigilante's eyes. "And what makes you think I care?" Kyle didn't shirk. "You smile every time I say something like that." The smile immediately left Mysterion's face, eyes widening like he'd been caught. He sat up again, brushing Kyle's hand off and trying to put his uniform on quickly. "Hey, what are you doing?" Kyle demanded, flushing. "We both know why you care, and I can't give you anything." Mysterion spoke quickly, jaw clenching as he tugged the cloth back over his wounds. "I can't, Kyle. I've let this go on too long. This is my fault." "Wait!" Kyle's voice was weak, feeling cold from head to toe. "Don't! What do you mean?" "You know what I mean." Mysterion whirled on him, body shivering under the stress. His eyes were wild with something that looked like fear. "You're infatuated with the idea of me. Something you can regale and hail as a hero, and I'm not. I'm nothing like you think, and you shouldn't have ever gotten this close to me. This is the last time you're going to see me. It has to be." So he did know. He actually knew, and he never fully admitted it to himself. Kyle felt humiliated. His hands were shaking, but he stepped into his space anyhow to fight. He wasn't some fragile violet. He wouldn't win this by embarrassing him. "Now wait!" he stammered, trying to wrap his mind around this. He couldn't leave. "You're not giving me enough credit. I know what you've done. I've documented most of it. And you're still trying to paint me as a hero," Mysterion argued back, holding the spot on his uniform with dried blood crusted to it. He had to be agitated in the cut. "Because I truly believe that you're acting from a good place," Kyle snapped back. I never once debated asking for anything. That's not fair to throw at me. How dare you?" Mysterion gritted his teeth, saying nothing. "From what I know of you, I think you're just scared," Kyle accused, snarling up at the man. "You shy away from anything that might make you think you aren't the menacing, heartless being you seem to be trying to convince yourself you are. You're terrified of anything that might make you change your mind, to make you think you somehow might end up being human after all." "I'm not scared," Mysterion said slowly, staring. "Yes, you are." Kyle's voice was ice. "I've seen the things you do. You don't have to be Mysterion, but you are, despite putting yourself in danger nearly daily. Taking risks to pick up where the law drops off or bringing peace to people with no answers, that's not good. That's not selfless." "I am very selfish." Mysterion's voice was low. "I'm glad you came to me," Kyle said, eyes fierce. "Whatever you think you are, you deserve protecting. You deserve help. I would never act on anything. But don't leave. Not if you don't have anywhere else to go." Mysterion's gaze raised, slowly, lips parted, and something startlingly intense in his eyes. He slowly reached up, cupping Kyle's face. He looked at him, expression shockingly vulnerable. "If you were in my place, you would have definitely been a hero," Mysterion said, voice unwavering but soft. "You'll be an incredible lawyer, Kyle." "Don't," Kyle was about to say. and Mysterion leaned in. He kissed him, slow and firm, and making Kyle melt. Gloved fingers caressed his cheeks, deepening the kiss as Kyle slid his hand behind his neck. Immediately, Mysterion let him go, breathing against his lips. Goodbye, Kyle. The vigilante pressed one more kiss into his lips, and he was out of Kyle's arms before he could do anything more than swear at him. Mysterion wasn't bluffing. Kyle did not speak to him again after that. He saw Mysterion on the news, wrote about him some, before he had to go back to school and leave reporting behind him for now. He still tried to puzzle it all together. Mysterion, he felt, was a good person, someone devoted to protecting and helping, no matter what the reason behind it, and somehow he felt he cared about Kyle as well. He simply felt he didn't deserve things like that. Hospitals, help, affection, praise. It was... no one should think like that. And Kyle wished he had the opportunity to say so. He hoped he had someone else to go to, if it wasn't him. The redhead walked down the stairs into the warm spring weather after another lecture on criminal justice. He just about begged Mysterion not to leave. How humiliating. Kyle grimaced as he shouldered his way through a gaggle of kids not paying attention to what they were blocking. After about a year of him going to Kyle for help, he'd gotten attached enough to make a fool of himself. Or did he, if Mysterion was moved enough to kiss him goodbye? He should probably try and forget it. But Kyle tended to overthink everything on a regular basis. How was this any different? He didn't want to just let it go. Not when he wasn't even sure how someone who, yes, he considered a friend, might be faring, if he was even okay. Some nights, if he was even alive. Hey, sorry, someone said, and Kyle glanced over. The student was tall, blonde, with bright blue eyes that seemed to spark as they watched Kyle. He wore a loose red t-shirt and a backpack patched with duct tape on the strap. Not that his ragged appearance detracted much from anything. A smile spread over his face, warm and vibrant, and Kyle's heart leapt for some stupid reason. Can you show me where this building is? The boy asked sheepishly, still smiling at Kyle. I think I got all turned around. Well, it's not like there's a giant sign telling you which building is which. Kyle couldn't help but saying, taking the map from him as the boy laughed. He smiled as well, delighted that his teasing had been taken so well, looking down at the map. Sure, it's where I'm heading to next. I'll show you.